we are talking to Dr. Heather Phillip, and you are in which department?
I am in marketing.
Okay, marketing, awesome. We have a lot of students in marketing in this class, so I'm excited to talk to you. And I've known you for a few years, but we haven't talked one-on-one much, so this is great. So tell us.
That's fun.
I know, yeah, and you're high tech, so thanks. And then what courses do you teach in marketing?
Yeah, so I teach consumer behavior, digital marketing, social media marketing, and I also teach business communication.
Oh, awesome. Okay, good. Let me just fix okay, now we're side by side. Awesome. Okay, so you teach a lot of classes. That's great. And then what is your advice, general advice on teaching at the university level?
Yeah, so one thing I would say is number one rule is to know your students. You know, when you first get into teaching, um, let's be real. Sometimes you might get in there and you see the textbook or you find out about your class like a week beforehand, and it can be
Yeah.
really overwhelming. So you might start thinking, well, I'll just think like I'm a student, and so
Mm,
I'll just create the class for myself as if I was the
mm,
student.
mm,
And that kind of goes along the golden rule, like do unto others as you would want to yourself. And that's a
mm,
kind of good starting point, but it's not the end goal. What you really want is more of a platinum rule. You want to
mm,
think, do unto others as they would want. So you have to
mm,
know your student, just like
mm,
number one rule of marketing, who is your customer?
mm,
So you have to think like, I'm going to become the best student in my class. I'm going to figure out where are they right now? What are their problem points? What do they already know about? What do they not know about? Because you need to develop a course that meets their needs.
mm,
So knowing your students is the number one rule. And some ways to do that is you can create activities, you know, depending if you're online or in person. That first day of class is really the groundbreaking number one day to figure out who everyone is. What is it that they care about? What do they know about? Why are they here? So you want to kind of ask them those questions. Even doing like a survey, you know, you can find out
mm,
things that, do you have access to technology? How
mm,
comfortable do you feel
mm,
with this technology or with these topics? And
mm,
then you can adjust what you're going to be teaching based on what you find out. So that's my number one rule, is to, you know your students.
mm,
Uh, and number two, I would say when you know your students, and this kind of goes in the marketing standpoint, you know your customer, you find a solution for them. And
mm,
so you find a way to get them to their end goal. Like, why are
mm,
they here in the first place?
mm,
Well, they want a job, they want to
mm,
graduate,
mm.
they want this, you know. And so based on your class, you have to figure out what your goals are for the class, right? So I want them to be good communicators in business communication. I want them to be ready to get a career, get a resume, cover letter together. And once I know what I want them to come out of this class with, then I follow what's called a GPS strategy. Because, like, where is my students right now?
Mm.
Where do I want them to go?
Oh, I
And
love
I
it.
find a
Yeah.
way to get them there, right? I have
Mhm.
to find a path to kind of figure out how can you go down this route. And some students will have a longer path, some will have a shorter path, but that's why you need to know your students so you can
Mhm.
kind of guide them along the way. So you have to think of yourself like a tour guide,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
you're the number one rule of being a tour guide, don't lose your tour group.
Oh, I love it.
So
Yeah.
don't lose your students, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because they will get lost. You know your course inside and out.
Mhm.
You know it like
Mhm.
the back of your hand, but this is
Mhm.
new to them. So
Mhm.
be a good tour guide. Create a course map.
Mhm.
We learn this in like quality matters.
Oh, yeah.
And really it's goes in hand with that tour guide component. Like, what is it that I want you to get out of this? What are some assignments that would help you become a better communicator? What are some assignments that helps you become better at digital marketing?
Mhm.
And what are some paths that I need to do? Like, maybe we have to do an activity on this. Like, I'm going to create a whole course map and course schedule that creates that for them. um, Tour guide also is relevant when you're lecturing, because
Mhm.
when I see bad lectures or I see things that don't work is when a professor gets up there and they use like the PowerPoint that went with the textbook,
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
they don't
Mhm,
create something that
mhm,
helps the students follow along. So definitely always customize it for them
mm,
and follow the rule of only one idea per slide or one
mhm,
idea shown at a time.
mm,
Because if you have multiple ideas, they
mhm,
look around and they get lost,
mhm,
right? They go down another path when you're
mhm,
supposed to be guiding them. Following that metaphor of the GPS, I'd also say to keep your GPS updated. So
I love
keep
it.
updating
Mhm,
it, and that's yourself, right? You have to
mhm,
keep learning, find new examples. You know, don't just create a lecture and then leave it like that for 20 years.
yeah,
You
totally.
know, you have to keep getting new information, new ideas. And the way to do that, I would recommend joining communities. So
Mhm,
Reddit, Slack, Facebook,
mhm,
all kinds of online
mhm,
communities available. I'm on a few of them on Facebook where there's like marketing, it's a group for marketing educators for
mhm,
university level. And
mhm,
there's like thousands of people on there and they share every single day a new article, a new this, a new that, all related to consumer behavior, marketing, digital
mhm,
marketing. I'm in
mhm,
a group for digital marketers as
mhm,
well. And I'm on a few of them for business communication. So I just find that such a great resource because they're constantly posting. So you can lurk and you can
Oh,
find
I love lurking.
information.
Yeah, I love lurking.
Yeah. And then sometimes if you feel confident enough to speak out, you can also network with them and, you know,
Mhm,
get some ideas, or you're struggling with a concept, ask for feedback from
mhm,
the group and community. Like, hey, I'm looking
mhm,
for examples on whatever it might be.
mhm.
And you'll find such a great resource that way. Um, so that's my number two is do the GPS strategy. Like you're
I
a good
love that
tour guide.
metaphor. Yeah.
Number three kind of goes in hand, that tour guide, you have to stay organized. And so here I would say work smarter, not harder. Really do a lot of the front work beforehand. Don't just do it on the fly as much as
Mhm,
possible. So here, think long and hard about your syllabus. You know, think about the rules, think about possible scenarios that might come up. Because when you're a
mhm,
professor, you're going to get a lot of emails, you're going to get a lot of
mhm,
questions, and you don't want to be interrupting your class prep time and all of your other time that you need. Always thinking about how do I reply to this email? Oh no, I have this situation. What policy could I come up with? Right? If you already think of policies of common scenarios that might happen, then you can point the student in a way like
mhm,
here on page 5, you know, this is exactly what we do in this scenario. And it
mhm,
just saves you time. And it also makes the student not get lost and wonder like, oh, what if this happens? What will we be
mhm,
doing? Such
mhm.
as late policies and makeup policies and things like that. I recommend, again, going to those communities to
That's
find
awesome. Yeah.
resources there.
Yeah.
They share a lot of syllabus language. You can also like look on Reddit and lurk a lot to see potential scenarios that come up that you wouldn't have thought about,
Mhm.
especially when you're
Now,
new.
what community in Reddit do you recommend?
So the professors one, you can
Oh,
get a lot
yeah.
of insights for the
Okay.
syllabus language.
Yeah.
But as far as the communities for your field of interest,
Oh, yeah.
I found those more on Facebook and
Mhm.
Slack.
Mm.
Um, so you know, you just kind of ask some professors around you if they have one to
Mhm.
recommend, and then you can kind of get them to share and invite you to the
Mhm.
communities.
Oh, yeah.
But for Reddit, I found the professors one helpful for the syllabus, you know,
Mm.
to kind of really grind that together and figure out what needs to be on there. Then the second thing about getting organized is create grading rubrics.
Mm.
This is often overlooked. You know, professors just kind of wing it and they say, here's an assignment, and I'll just grade it as I know a good assignment when I see it. And that creates a lot of more work for you. And it makes your students less prepared and not feeling like tour guide, right?
Mhm.
They're getting
Mhm.
lost. So Canvas has a great feature. You can build a grading rubric and copy grading rubrics. You can use the speed grader with it. And if you spend a lot of time initially making a very detailed grading rubric with comments in there built in for all kinds of scenarios of what your excellent, you know, meets expectations and so on, you have spent less time writing repetitive feedback because you can
Mhm.
just click on, you know, oh, this is this scenario. You didn't meet this because, and the comments are kind of already written in there. So it takes a lot of time initially, but definitely spend time creating those grading rubrics. So yeah, those
That's
are
great.
my
I
number
love those
three
tips.
rules
I
is
love those tips.
know
Yeah.
your students, GPS strategy, and get organized.
Totally proactive, I think, like getting it all done on the front end.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
great. I love the tour guide. I always think of myself, especially with online, like I'm a Sherpa, like guiding them up the mountain.
Exactly.
So similar. Well, good. And then
Exactly.
I know you teach online, or have you taught online? And if you don't, how do you use technology? Of course, we all did during the pandemic.
Yes, so I do teach online. Primarily it's asynchronous. So asynchronous,
Okay.
you know, students are coming in and I'm creating a course for them where we don't meet face to face. And I have taught a few synchronously when we went with COVID, but
Mhm.
primarily I do asynchronous. Number one rule here is if you're going to teach online, you have to be an expert at the technology. You
Mhm.
know, you need to know all the ins and out of Canvas. You cannot just know the basics and call it a day because
Mhm.
it will just be too messy for the
Mhm.
students coming in if you don't know how to use it. So some things that I would recommend are asynchronous, especially students will see this whole course and they might get overwhelmed. So it goes
Mhm.
back to being a tour
Mhm.
guide.
Mhm.
If you set up Canvas with modules and you set up the prerequisites and requirements, you can make it that a student has to view a page before going to the next page,
Oh,
before
yeah.
going to the assignment.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that just helps a lot because before I did that, I would have an assignment and the student would be like, well, how do I do this? And it's like, well, the page before it showed how to do
Mhm.
it. And they
Mhm.
didn't see that page. And I can go
Mhm.
in and view. You should be able to know, you can view if they've
Right.
like checked
In
something.
order. Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
a technology component that you should know how to do. Know your grade book. You know, I see often students who are becoming new professors, they just have the basic setup and they don't customize it. You
Mhm.
can do filters, you can do notes. Notes can help you add comments for students for certain things. The student doesn't see the note, and it just helps you when you're
Mhm.
preparing your grades. Settings, you can set up late policies to be automatic. You can set up the grade posting policy to be manual or automatic. You can also make sure that you understand how Canvas grades, right? They do based on weights or based on points.
Mhm.
If you're not understanding that and a student goes in and sees, oh, I have a 95%, but it's not real, it's not
Mhm.
accurate, it's going to
Yeah,
confuse them.
that
So
happens.
yeah, so understanding the math behind it, because I often see in the Reddit people complaining about Canvas. They're like, well, it's always
Mhm.
wrong. And I'm like,
Mhm.
actually, it's not if you know how to
No,
use it.
to set it up. Yeah.
Like if you set it up correctly, I've tested, like it's always correct. You know, it's
Mhm.
always following exactly what you set it up to do. So if you understand how it works, then it will run smoothly.
Mhm.
There's also some features where you can click message students who have not submitted or
Mhm. Oh, yeah, I like that one.
who have like earned less than 50% or less than or
Mhm.
higher than. That's
Mhm.
really great because you can do auto messages and kind of
Mhm.
remind them instead of bombarding and harassing the
Mhm.
whole class, you just do it
Yeah,
for
I
segment
like that.
to
That's a
those
good one.
groups. Um, so also just make it simple and easy. When you get a template at university or here, especially, it comes with all those pre-made pages.
Mhm.
And if you are copying it over, it duplicates the pages. And so I've
Mhm.
seen courses where there's like, it's just a mess. It has all the duplicate pages and they don't set up the course to be, you know, deleting irrelevant old links or deleting non-working links. There's a navigation pane on the left. Take out anything you're not using so the student
Mhm.
isn't overwhelmed with all these
Mhm.
options. And I just learned this year with our community that we're doing for PLC, the Design Plus tools. So I definitely
Mhm.
recommend,
Oh, yeah.
you know, learning your technology, you know,
Mhm.
understanding
Mhm.
that. Um, Especially for asynchronous, you have to send regular communication. You have to
Mhm.
send announcements,
Mhm.
you know, understand how to do auto sending and setting
Mhm.
that up, make it short and sweet,
Yeah.
keep the students understanding what's coming up, where are we now, what we've just
Mhm.
done. Again, goes back to the tour guide. That's what you are.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I used to make these long reminder emails and they're like, so I make them short.
Yeah, exactly. It's like little signs, like here, turn
Mhm.
right, turn
Mhm.
left. It's not like,
Mm.
oh, read this essay for
They don't
just
want
tell
to,
them,
yeah.
yeah, keep it nice and simple.
Mhm.
If you are making online videos, online asynchronous, same thing, has to
Mhm.
be simple.
Mhm.
And just like when you make PowerPoints, one idea per slide,
Mhm.
just like when you write an essay, one idea per paragraph, make one idea per video,
Mhm.
and that will be like, less than 5 minutes per video, so
Mhm. Oh, I
that
like that. Yeah.
it just makes it easier if you need to edit a video in the future. You don't
Mhm.
have to remake a whole lecture. You just
Mhm.
edit that section. It makes it easier because if you've ever made videos, which I'm sure you have, your lecture videos,
Mhm.
I find it a lot harder because you're speaking to an empty screen and it's just
Yeah.
so hard to get that engagement and excitement. So it's just a lot easier to keep it short and sweet than you can. If you make a mistake, you don't have to start over 40 minutes ago
Yeah, so true. Yeah, I like
or
this.
edit, it's
Mhm.
just a lot simpler. Make sure you have a good microphone
Mhm.
because you can get away with poor
Mhm.
visuals in your
Mhm.
videos. But
Mhm.
if you sound like
Oh yeah, the audio is everything.
nobody wants to hear it.
Totally. Yeah.
um, Also, get to know your technology again. Canvas Studio is awesome. You can
Mhm.
build in quizzes in your videos. You
Mhm.
can let students comment with each other in your
Mhm.
videos.
Mhm.
You have access to H5P, which is the
Mhm.
HTML5.
Mhm.
Make
Mhm.
activities in your
Mhm.
pages. Lots of fun things to do.
Mhm.
Um, if you are teaching synchronously, just be aware that it's a different world, right?
Mhm.
When you get online, you're going to see blank screens. Nobody wants to put
Mhm.
their video on, and it's hard to get engagement that way. So get to know your technology again. Use whiteboard, use the chat, use the polls, know how to use breakout rooms. Go back to those communities again that I started off talking about and look for advice and feedback and suggestions on building synchronous live sessions because it is different from in person and it is different from asynchronous videos. Um, yeah, so that would be my tip there. And discussion boards are often used for synchronous
Mhm.
classes, asynchronous. Great, great feature, but when you do it wrong, it just becomes a checkbox for the
Mhm.
students.
Right.
So really important even now because especially with online, you're not interacting with them. You want to make sure it is relevant and interesting to them. It cannot
Mhm.
just be something you found in the textbook, like here's a little
Mhm.
random thing that I want
Mhm.
you to do to check the box that you're
Mhm.
online.
Mhm.
You really have to spend time finding something relevant and interesting for them
Mhm.
and keep a simple grading rubric so they know the
Mhm.
expectation, make it consistent across the course. So that, yeah, those would be my online tips. I have a ton
Oh,
of
I
them. I
know
could
you have a
speak.
ton.
I'm like, I'm running out of breath because I'm like, there's so many. I wrote
Oh, I
a
know.
bunch of them
Yeah.
down because
Well,
I have Canvas
yeah.
open. I'm like looking like, oh yeah,
Oh
you should
man.
use
Well, feel free
this.
to send follow-up notes and I'll add them in the
Mm-hmm.
information. But well, good. So we'll wrap up, but do you have any final thoughts for new PhD students that are new to teaching?
Um, oh, I thought of two more online
Oh yeah,
technology.
go for
There's
it.
StudyMate
Oh
is on
yeah.
Canvas. You can
It's
use
like
that.
flashcards and games. Yeah.
Yeah, and Badger, have you used that before?
No, like little like digital badges.
Yeah, so I've experimented with this. You can create badges for completion of modules.
Hmm.
And you could make it that a student will earn a
Oh, I
badge if
love it.
they like score 85% on an exam
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
95, or you can give them badges and they can
Hmm.
compete within the class.
Hmm.
So some gamification type
Hmm.
elements is quite fun. Um, and then the other thing is that I would recommend, make sure you network.
Hmm.
Those communities I told you about online, very important, but also in your college, in your university.
Hmm.
Find people like like we are doing right now. We are
Yeah,
networking and finding
yeah.
opportunities to learn from others.
That's so true.
Because you can also build some connections to get guest speakers to come in. You know,
That's so
maybe
true.
you have something to
Yeah.
share in my marketing class
Mhm.
that, you
Mhm.
know, bring out outside perspectives. And then kind
Mhm.
of, I've done this in the past where I've kind of switched with another professor. We
Mhm.
swapped courses one day
Mhm. Mhm.
so that the students can get wider perspectives. So
Yeah.
just a lot of opportunities there if
Mhm.
you are connecting and networking with others.
That's so true. Yeah, I love that. Well, good. Well, thank you so much. And I'll be sure to send you a copy of the video.
Okay.